Hey everybody, Keisha here, and today I am here with my friend
Jennifer Guskin,
and we need your help. We are right now working on advocacy for combating human trafficking, and here's why. So we'll give you a little bit of background of our story and why we're doing what we're doing.
I was adopted as an infant by a couple who sold me throughout my childhood. I have been to Epstein Island and on multiple Lolita Express types of flights as a child. After I went public, Child Protective Services opened a substance-exposed newborn case, even though all tests came back negative, and they told me that if I wouldn't stop posting on social media, I would never see my daughter again. I started to connect how I was adopted as an infant and then sold throughout my childhood, how many other children who have been through the adoption, foster, and CPS pipelines have also been trafficked to Epstein's ilk.
And as many of you guys know already, based on the work that we do at the Karis Project, I'm an American Indian born in Canada under the Jay Treaty. My father and I were exposed in the improper contagion mitigations for the COVID pandemic in early 2020. As a result of this, I lost everything: house, cars, corporate assets, jobs. Bank accounts were shut down in Canada, and I fled to the US as an American Indian, fully documented, and was trafficked by rogue agents in ICE and other agents in the government, and forced to live with single American men. I was even imprisoned for 7 months initially, and then trafficked throughout the states. Put on full surveillance tracking and wasn't allowed to leave the city, house, or state without permission, or work without permission. And that happened for many years, and I was on and off the streets because of that, and in and out of shelters. And that is just a small example of what many go through in this trafficking system, be it the family courts or otherwise. So that's why the Karis Project will be going to DC to speak with representatives and do live reporting. We're also going to be in contact with other families who are dealing with human trafficking, and through the CPS courts or through any other means, lesser versions of trafficking, and doing reporting on them live and otherwise. We will also be working on, we ultimately want to shine light on what's going on with the trafficking here in the US. And we also want to meet with various agencies in DC, and we'll be going back and forth for training sessions and other things so that we can be better equipped to help people deal with resolving some of the issues that we're seeing. We will also be putting forth petitions in government to help people get justice, and that's something that we have been working on already so far. We have some petitions that have recently been filed in the state of Colorado, Michigan, Texas, and Arizona, and we will be continuing.
But we can't do this on our own. We will be traveling to events and training courses, as well as DC on a consistent basis. We also have to get acceptable equipment, such as computers, cameras, interview gear, etc. There will be other miscellaneous costs that would also be like gas, food, and rooms if necessary.
So that is why we are working towards combating human trafficking, and that is exactly why we need your help. We cannot do this alone, and most what the Karis Project does is on its own dime. And so we do love and appreciate each and every one of you that support us and all the work that we do. As many of you know, we also live stream on Lindell TV every day. And everything we do, like I said, is on our own dime. So we appreciate all the love and support and all the people who do donate. And we would very much love and appreciate that still. Thank you everybody for your time and considerations. And thank you for all the support. And we will catch you guys in the next one, and hopefully we might see you guys in the future and come across you and maybe be able to do some great things together.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Karis Project podcast. Today we have with us Paul Davis. He's a civil rights lawyer. He's a J6er. He is going against this whole globalist narrative. He does a podcast. What is it? UnCancelled. That's it. I mean, my brain is probably getting canceled from old age. But and my daughter, the host, and he also does stuff on the America Happens Network. So you want to just introduce yourself to our audience?
Absolutely. Yeah. My name is Paul Davis. As Dale pointed out, I was very publicly fired for attending the January 6th protest, peacefully protesting outside the Capitol. And I used that. The fallout was catastrophic. It pretty much destroyed my life, but I just started my own law firm to fight back. And my primary expertise is in employment law. So I helped hundreds of people save their jobs during the COVID vaccine mandates, and still fighting some of those cases, and launched my own podcast just to help people get educated on what's going on in our world, and why, how to fight back against all the oppression that we're experiencing. So.
Yeah, so the vaccine mandates, that was a big bone of contention, and they were highly unlawful. I mean, at the end of the day, I know the work that I did was like right before the vaccine mandates, but if they had stopped it then, there would be no mandates. A lot of people unjustly lost their livelihoods, their jobs, businesses were destroyed, and everything because of this nonsense. This is out of control.
Yeah, I mean, it shocked people. People did not understand the law on this and how to protect themselves in the workplace. A lot of people, unfortunately, mistakenly believed that the Constitution applies to your private employer. And while I know we would all love it to, it simply doesn't. The Constitution protects you from oppression from the government. Now, you could say, well, the government was putting pressure on these private corporations, and so it was really the government at the end of the day. But that's a very difficult, convoluted argument to make that requires just some complex evidentiary issues, let's say. So the easiest way to save your job during the pandemic that people didn't understand was to apply for a religious or a medical accommodation. And that's really where you saw the just blatant violation of the law by corporations, because in order to deny somebody's right to refuse a vaccine based on their religious belief or their medical condition, the employer has to show that it presents some sort of undue hardship to their business, which we all know the vaccines did not prevent transmission of COVID, and employers now realize that. And at the time, it's basically they were speculating. There was no evidence to show these vaccines prevented transmission, that they kept anybody safe. Even the CDC's website said it's to prevent severe illness and hospitalizations, and it's like, okay, well, how is that a harm to the business? It would blow your mind to watch some of these depositions. They've actually been really fun. I've never seen witnesses sweat so hard and just lie so blatantly and struggle to come up with answers, because it was just, what they did was inexcusable.
Yeah. See, I looked at it on a little bit of a different level, because like I do the engineering. I got a Bachelor of Technology. And so in Canada, we have occupational health and safety, which is like OSHA. That's the government's responsibility, and they're responsible for the laws and the guidelines and the regulations that came out of it. And so the engineering controls that were provided from the government, they were not right. First of all, they had health authorities doing it, which is, I mean, you don't go to engineers for heart surgery. They'll kill you, right? Like, we can design stuff for you, but we're not going to give you medical advice. And so you shouldn't get engineering advice or controls from a medical body. And the CDC was the one who handed that out to the Public Health Agency of Canada and filtered it down in Canada and filtered it through the States. That's a huge no-no. You can't do that. Government's responsible. And on that back came everything else, because engineering is the first step. You look at the hazard reduction in OSHA. You have elimination, substitution. You can't do that. Cat's out of the bag. Next step, engineering controls, then administrative, then PPE. When the government gives you faulty engineering controls that helps you spread a disease, they're finished. It's over.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny you bring up OSHA, because I was talking about OSHA on my show on Monday evening, because there's a big U.S. Supreme Court case coming up. I forget, it's FCC, Federal Communications Commission, versus, I can't remember the other party, but it has to do with something called the non-delegation doctrine, because what happens in the United States is the legislature, the Congress, basically delegates their lawmaking authority to the federal agencies like OSHA. So, for instance, Congress would pass a law creating OSHA and then basically say, all right, you're in charge of workplace safety, have fun, make whatever laws you want, and so this is where we get the deep state, because what happens is, from that, you have this agency form. The agency makes their own laws. They call them regulations, but they're laws. They're laws that you have to follow, and they're made by unelected bureaucrats. And then they have their own court system. So they have their enforcement mechanism. They'll send a OSHA agent to inspect your workplace. If they find you in violation, they'll put you before the administrative court. So they basically function as a government unto themselves. That's all three branches of government within OSHA, if that makes sense.
And they control it all.
They control it all. And so what's now before the Supreme Court is something called the non-delegation doctrine, which came up. I won't go into the whole history of it, but when FDR was rapidly expanding the government during the Green New Deal, the New Deal, that this was something that came up, because it's like, wait a minute, Congress is supposed to make the laws, not the executive branch. But since then, and that was a case called Schechter Poultry. Since then, for the last 75 years or whatever it's been, the court hasn't struck down a single regulation on that basis. But there is a case now where the court is revisiting that non-delegation doctrine. So if they say that's legitimate, then that would go a long way to curbing the power of the American deep state.
Well, oh yes, because in Canada, the lot of the occupational health and safety laws, they name the minister responsible. So that's the elected official. Oh yes, this is why they did not want us bringing that forward, because that gave a line straight to the minister in each province and federally for doing this for criminal charges, because we have a provision inside of all of our, even our criminal code, that has criminal negligence that is specifically for occupational health and safety. So when you give out something that kills people, the elected official becomes liable, and nobody wants to do that, because they're like, we want to feign. Doesn't matter whether it's incompetence or deliberate. If you do something and people die, well, too bad for you, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah,
this shouldn't have happened. So, can you tell us some of the cases that you were dealing with when you were like going through this? And did you get a lot of them I would imagine you get a lot in Texas, right?
I mean, my cases have been all over the United States. I mean, I've had, I represented workers. At first, I was helping people apply for religious accommodations or medical. Medical, you more need a doctor rather than a lawyer. As long as your doctor will sign off on your medical exemption, which that was a huge problem in itself. So fortunately, I had a network of doctors like Peter McCullough and, there's so many. I mean, I worked with so many all over the country. Richard Bartlett was another big one. And people that would actually be willing to stand up to say, hey, this vaccine is going to be harmful to my patient. But, mainly religious accommodation. So I had people calling me from all over the country. It was actually kind of crazy. It was a God thing, in my opinion, because I was very publicly terminated for protesting on January 6th. And that made it impossible to find alternative employment. So I couldn't get a job with another law firm or in-house with a company like I was. I had this really great job before January 6th that I loved, actually. It was the first job I'd had out of law school that I loved. And I got fired. And so I was all over the news, so I couldn't really get another job. And then I just, a very strong believer in Jesus Christ. And I just felt like God was leading me to start my own law firm. I didn't really want to do that for many reasons, but I've just really felt like God was telling me to do that. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And then the very next week, might have been within 2 weeks, but it was at least within 2 weeks, Biden announced the vaccine mandates. And all of a sudden, I was the only conservative employment lawyer I'd ever heard of. So my phone was just ringing off the hook all day, every day. It's a nice problem to have when you first start a business, because I was like, I started this business. I'm like, I don't even know where I'm going to get my clients. And then all of a sudden, I was like, how do I handle all these clients? So
Yes.
It was pretty crazy. I forget what your original question was. Now I probably went down a rabbit trail, but that's how it all started. Let's say.
Yes, because my daughter was a part of a union here in Canada and she actually reported this because the engineers at the hospital that she worked at, the Saskatchewan hospital, they were actually implementing things wrong and they knew it was wrong. And I was like, you can't do that. And so she made a complaint and asked for the reports and so forth, and the union threw her under the bus, and they're supposed to be there to protect the safety of the workers, right? So how did the unions factor in on this? Were they helpful or were they not?
None of the unions were helpful in my experience. Unions deal with a separate area of law that's called labor law. A lot of people think labor and employment law are the same. They're often conflated. They're two, labor law deals specifically with the law of labor unions. But what I can tell you is I had a lot of clients that were members of labor unions and their labor union. I never saw a single labor union come through to defend the rights of their, union member to resist getting, a vaccine that they didn't want.
Well, it was also that there was no science behind it, right? So it's a health and safety risk because you don't know what you're really giving to someone. So you're putting your workers' lives at risk. Like, you couldn't go in and say, okay, go ahead and fix that machinery. We've got some safety mechanisms that were never tested. We don't know if it's going to work, but go ahead and do that. They would.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was a cult. I mean, it was a vaccine cult. It was totally based on faith in the vaccine. And so I think that's where you saw so much animosity in the workplace and in hospitals, because when you tell somebody, I don't believe the vaccine is effective and I think it's actually harmful to my health, it was to the level where it violated their religious belief. And I think that's why you saw so much hostility. I mean, I could tell you, I did mostly the employment side of things, but I also went to hospitals and tried to fight hospitals that were killing these people. I mean, that's what it was. I mean, it was medical murder. They got money from the federal government, from the Health and Human Services, from the CARES Act that unfortunately Donald Trump signed. That appropriated, I think it was $30 billion to pay hospitals to follow a certain protocol that most of the time ends in the patient's death, where they force them to take a COVID test. They find a positive result, whether it's accurate or not. That's highly dubious, in my opinion. And then they put them on remdesivir, which is a drug known to shut down your organs. Then once your organs shut down, you need to go on the ventilator. Then they just give you a bunch of drugs until you die. And then the hospital gets a payout from that. Yeah. It's really a sick system.
Yeah, it's like they're creating the circumstances for those people to also by forcing them into something that was a false alarm, a false flag to begin with.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you had people that would go to a hospital for something completely different. Like, let's say they broke their arm or something, and they would be like, oh, we're supposed to give you a PCR test. And the PCR test says you have COVID. So then they admit you with COVID, and then they murder you. I mean, it's not funny.
It's true, though.
It's not, but it is. I just say so, yeah.
It is. It's tragic, but it's also just the logic is so ridiculous. You can't help but laugh. Like, we're going to give you a fake test, and then that gives us the right to kill you, basically.
But when you look at go ahead, Keisha.
No, I was going to say, if that doesn't kill you, they don't have the proper engineering controls, and then the air will kill you. Like, they'll just have something in the air that will kill you. It's like we don't realize that the tactics that they used in Nazi Germany is the exact same things that they're doing to everyone else. Sorry, everyone, if I'm screaming, I'm at like a water park right now. But
Uh,
like literally, they have the same gas chambers in Nazi Germany, which is the engineering controls. They have the same medical issues, forcing people to do the same tactics. And the government was coming after the people in the same way. They had the media lying about everything. You know, it's crazy that people don't realize that this is the exact same problem, and that that a lot of people fell for the issue. And it's like, there needs to be, in my mind, I'm like, there has to be a very severe consequence for what has gone on here, because like you said, they literally, someone going for a broken arm, next thing you know, they're trying to murder somebody in the hospital.
it's crazy what we consent to as citizens. I mean, I'm learning so much now about just private law, how we give away so much of our sovereignty just by agreeing to this statutory system that's really functions like a banking system. Basically, it's all these, we think these are countries and cities and stuff. They're actually all corporations, and they basically just we give up our sovereignty by agreeing to contract to them. So it's like with the hospital, it's like, oh, I'm agreeing to this COVID result, and so now I'm going to consent for you to kill me. I mean, that's really what happened.
But
that's why I think that everyone should have like the same rights as native. Like, I'm an American Indian under the J Treaty, and I weaponize my Native American rights so much in the last 5 years to keep me alive from all the various corporations and like companies and even law that was like trying to come after me towards stuff. Well, obviously I'd done nothing wrong, but when people understand their rights, it's very hard for these different corporations to do these things, because like I've even had to call the police on people to protect myself. It's like people need the autonomy. Like in my IDs, for example, I don't have the all capital letters. I only have capital on the first letter of my first name and first letter of my last name. I think everyone in America should have that sovereignty as natives, because no government should be able to tell you what you have to do with your body. You have to do this. You have to kill yourself. Like,
they can't.
Was atrocious.
They just make
Everyone
you
needs
believe
that full
that way.
sovereignty. Yes, well, they can't exactly, and most people don't know their rights enough to actually weaponize it for their safety.
Because if you're in the United States, that thing called the Constitution says they can't do that, right?
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. I'm ashamed to, I never thought I'd be ashamed to be a member of the Bar Association, but I'm still trying to extricate myself from all of that. But I have some cases I still need to litigate. So just like, as soon as these cases are over, I'm out.
well, one of the things is that people have to understand, when they understand the premeditation that went into this, they'll understand. Because when you look at what, like, for example, Fauci and Peter Daszak and the Eagle Health Alliance did, and they were using USA to fund the creation of gain of function COVID, like coronaviruses in Wuhan, then you had on the Canadian side of the border, they had Dr. Chu, a Chinese scientist, and her husband, who was also a Chinese scientist, and she was a general in China, in the Chinese army, right? Working there, stealing secrets and doing research for the Chinese government and sending it back to Wuhan. Then the Bangladesh strain of the Nipah virus that she sends back in March of 2019. At the end of 2019, it's found in the spike proteins in patients that were sequenced from Wuhan. Well, I wonder what happened there, right?
You literally cannot make this stuff up.
and they requested because CSIS put this information out into Parliament in Canada. Congress requested that. They didn't get it, because if they did, Fauci would have got no pardon. They would have dragged him and Peter Daszak away in handcuffs, right? Yeah. Because that's a no-no. Like, no.
That's what should happen. I'm still not 100% convinced that the COVID virus actually existed. It sounds crazy, but it's like I think that they still have not isolated it in a lab. Have y'all heard that?
That they found I had a paper where they found the spike proteins in patients. What people think of viruses, you have to put that out of your mind. They created a biological weapon. The same way that they created the spike proteins in the shots, they can make those spike proteins and they can put them inside you through the air, and they aerosolize it. I studied this
Yeah.
and looked at some of the declassified documents from the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. And they talked about this at length, and I have it in some of my paperwork. So if they create that spike protein and they can put it anywhere and they suspend it in tiny water droplets. This is why. And if you created that, would you let someone go and isolate that, knowing full well that you were going to go and get some serious crimes, right? Like,
right.
But it did get found in patients, and that's
right.
So, how much of it did they do? Who knows? But they did something wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so crazy that, like, when you look at how they made the vaccines, so-called vaccines, which of course they had to change the definition of vaccine because this is the first quote-unquote vaccine we've ever had that doesn't actually prevent you from getting the virus, quote-unquote. But apparently they took parts of certain spike proteins and then they kind of guessed as to what the sequence was, and that's here's your mRNA vaccine. It would be like, I saw a video talking about how it'd be like basically if you found a hoof and a horn and you're trying to create a unicorn.
That's exactly what they did. They took pre-existing diseases, and it makes me think, because Dr. David Martin talked about their biological weapons program, and Tom Renz was saying this. A lot of what we think would probably like just random viruses or random sicknesses is probably a result of this. These guys were doing this stuff for a long time, and I don't trust them until I see for myself what they did. And this is why they need to have warrants and they need to arrest people, because the one thing I can say about this, when I look at all the different routes of poisoning, they don't pass up an opportunity to poison you. That's all I have to say. And
I didn't catch that last part. They don't what?
They don't pass up any opportunity to poison us.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. I mean, the thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, I think the most disturbing thing to me currently is just the chemtrails. You know, I mean, people, and it's just wild to me that people still think that's some kind of conspiracy. Like, I talked to somebody who considers themselves a MAGA person, and they're like, "Really, you think that's true?" I'm like, look at the sky. Like, you really, every single day, just think about it. It's like, just start looking up at the sky. It's like, it'll be a completely clear day. Then like around 10 a.m. or whenever, you start to see all the planes come, and then the whole sky is cloudy by the end of the day. Like, that's not natural. You really think that's condensation? I mean, give me a break.
But they've come out.
All these, what?
They've come out and talked about cloud seeding openly.
They said it openly. They confess about it. They publicly said they were doing it.
It's so crazy. I mean, people said they've said it in public, in plain sight, and people still think it's a conspiracy theory. But it's just, I mean, where my land is, I can tell you, I mean, it's really bad. I mean, this is like, I'm in Texas right now, but this is rural Arkansas we're talking about. I mean, like middle of nowhere, and there are pervasive chemtrails on a daily basis, and a lot of people in the community have trouble growing, their crops on their gardens and things like that. And I've read about how it destroys the root systems, and you'll see trees falling over just for no reason. Like a light wind will just knock a tree over. Like it is destroying our soil, and it's destroying our health. And we keep being told that Trump and RFK are going to ban chemtrails and RFK is going to get rid of it. And my take is, if they haven't done it by now, it's not going to happen, because you're seriously telling me the president of the United States can't issue Trump can sign an executive order today. No more chemtrails. Order the federal agencies to stop. I mean, that's within his authority. And why hasn't he done that yet? Why hasn't RFK gotten on him about that?
Well, I think
if they could.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think first day of office, Trump signed an executive order for the death penalty for treason. And I think if he can do that, he could probably sign an executive order to stop the chemtrails.
Exactly. I know. It's just so, I saw RFK the other day on an interview, and he was like, "We're looking into it." I'm just like, what do you mean you're looking into it? Just order it to stop. It's really not that hard. Like, You really telling us that the government, we think DARPA is doing it. It's like, you think? You don't even know what's going on in your own government?
We're going to take a short commercial break. We need to hear from the pillow guy, and we'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
Yeah, so if you need any, if you want to try out the energy drinks, you can go to mypillow.com/Karis. Or if you want to have any of the MyPillow products, go there, check it out. Or you can call 800-845-2942, use the promo code Karis, and get something supported and so forth. There's other stuff in the ticker as well. Back to the issue of the chemtrails. This falls under engineering. Engineering is dirtier than the medical industry. It's way worse because things poisoning people in the air, it's hard for people to grasp it because they can't see it. And like the aerosolization of anything, they do that stuff indoors. And this is a very good way to poison people that nobody is going to be aware of because they can't see it. Because it doesn't matter whether you want to call it a virus, and then research, they call it virus particles because they attach the spike protein to a particle, and this is what they call virus particles. Or if it's a bacteria, parasite, spore, fungus, whatever, if you can put it in a water droplet, it can be chemical, it doesn't matter what it is. You put it in a tiny water droplet, that thing will stay in the air for days. And then you'll just breathe it in and you won't realize that they're poisoning you, just like when they're poisoning you in the air. But it's actually more effective because if you're, for example, like you're in Texas, it's very hot in the summertime. In Canada, it's very cold in the wintertime. You're indoors. Guess what you got to do? You got to recirculate your air. So if you poison you, you're just going to recycle that poison over and over again, right? The wind ain't going to come and blow it away. These guys have it poisoning down to a science. These guys are sick and disgusting. Right?
We're being poisoned everywhere. Now they're talking about rolling out 6G on top of the 5G. And this is my theory, actually. When the year started, right when Trump got into office, you saw that it was like 1 or 2 weeks, there was a plane crash like every single day or some plane accident.
Yes.
We had this small ones. And so, what a lot of people don't realize is that my personal view is I think all that happened to convince people that we need autonomous flight that's controlled by AI. And in order to do that, you have to have 6G. So it's a way to also roll out 6G on us, which will poison us even further. And it's just, you're right. It's just they do not miss an opportunity to poison us. The food, the air, the water. It's everywhere. Like, you're crazy if you're drinking tap water these days, if you're not filtering out that fluoride.
Yes, and then you have, when you look at when you saw those planes and flying into like food processing plants and all of these things and all those disasters that were happening, that was just cutting off supplies. That's what happens during war, right? And so your food supplies are going down, you're getting other other resources that you need to help your critical infrastructure being maintained is being wiped out and making it more scarce, giving people more chaos. This is what they do to win wars. And it's like, well, you got to start thinking the government's waging war against you, or the deep state inside of the government that is waging war against you, and you need to do something about it. And this is why we need to start taking reasonable steps and telling those government officials who work for us, do their job. If not, there's the door, because there's no provision in any constitution that says you get a right to murder your people for profit. There is none, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was curious, since y'all are in Canada, do you think you hear a lot of talk about Alberta possibly leaving because of Mark Carney and what he's going to do? What do y'all think about that?
Oh, Keisha's in the States. I'm in Canada. We couldn't both.
Oh, you're in the States? Okay.
Oh, if we were both in Canada, it would be bad.
Oh, all right.
Yes. That's a possibility, but it really depends on what the people do. Because right now people talk about Danielle Smith, but her government is filled with globalists, right? Like Canada is worse than the United States for the amount of globalists in there. And so it's up to the people, because people are pissed off because Carney, they call him Mark Carnage for a reason. He destroyed the UK economy. Like he can't go and show his face in the UK now. He'll get run out of town. They can't stand him. And so they if they had sense, they would just get up and leave, because it's like Stockholm syndrome. You're going to the people that raping you. That's really what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. I think we lost Keisha. Is she frozen?
Yeah, I think she might be frozen.
Yeah, she's really good at staying still and quiet.
Yeah,
really good at the game.
Yeah, so there, we'll see if she comes back. But I mean, the Carney, he is the one who was advising Trudeau to freeze the bank accounts during the trucker convoy. This is the guy that, so that's really what we're having here. And he campaigned about going against Trump and all that kind of stuff. He's just his wife said, we're going to make the Canadians poor. Right?
Wow. Your wife said that?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Wow.
And
that's wild.
Yes. And they use so much anti-Trump rhetoric to try to get him in. And then there was a lot of issues with the election where people were finding people walking away with bags of ballots, right? There's a guy that filmed a woman that had like 2 bags filled with ballots that got into a taxi cab and was in another car and then walking into a mall with them. Oh that's not custody. And then another whistleblower in the Greater Toronto area in the Durham region, which is one of the Toronto's the largest center, and you pretty much need to win Toronto to win the election. And so they had called the Durham region, and the guy was working for Election Canada. All the ballots were in the bag, sealed, and CTV called, one of the news media, mainstream media, called the election in that riding when no votes have been counted.
Wow, that's wild. I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't surprise me. I ceased believing in our election system a long time ago, and truth be told, I didn't even vote this election because I think the whole system is fraudulent, and I'm in the process of extricating myself from contracting with the government, so I just chose not to vote. I think it's a lot more rigged than people believe, and I think the politicians are a lot more controlled than most people would believe.
Yeah, and I think that what needs to be done is that the people need to do something about it, because I mean, in Canada, we have to really do something, because you can't sit down and take this. They'll come in and they'll just take what they want from us, and we can't allow that to happen. I mean, other than that, it's like they want armed revolution, because if that happens, they'll just take us out, right? Like, so
exactly.
What little we have left, we have to make use of it and go at them and force the people that have the authority to do things to do it. And this is where the people have to go out and do something.
Yeah, no, I agree. You said it's like they're forcing us into it's like they're provoking us into armed revolution. I feel like that happens a lot, and that would be the excuse to come in and crack down and impose martial law. And I just, you see people all the time on social media say, oh, well, Americans have guns and that's why we still have our rights and stuff. It's like, okay, maybe that's true to an extent, but I'm a big believer in the Second Amendment. But I mean, you really think your average American citizen is going to, let's say the government issued a mandatory buyback program. Like, what percentage of people do you think would actually use violent force to defend themselves, like their property, from the government? I think very few. And I mean, it's not practical. So I mean, I think my personal opinion is that the way that we become free is we just all have to say no together. We're not going to continue to agree to be governed by this tyrannical system, and it doesn't take a violent revolution to do that. I mean, what if everybody just didn't pay their taxes and didn't make any contracts with the government at all? I don't think their system would last.
Well, no, and I think that people also have to put pressure on people as well, because like they sit down and say that this is a system of slavery. These people believe that they own us. And if you go back to slavery and a slave ran away, well, they got the dogs, they got the hounds, and they hunted you down. Your picture was everywhere. And it's like, you can't just walk away when somebody thinks they own you. Like, look at human trafficking. They will go back after what they consider their property. So we have to have people that will go out and build something for people to go to, but they're also going to have people that are going to help blow up the bridge, so to speak, so they can't chase us, right? And because we're in a war. It's not like a hot physical war, but it's still a polemical war for sure. And there's a biological component that they used to get what we were doing, but where we are now. But we still have to think and strategize in the same type of manner. But we have to use the law in order to protect ourselves, because we are at a severe disadvantage if we try to go and fight with them. And that's what they want. They want us to do that so they can send in drones, wipe us out, shut down our power, do all of these things. And I don't want that, right? I don't want to fight a battle that I'm going to lose.
Exactly. It's just ludicrous that people think a bunch of common people with the modern equivalent of going out on the street with pitchforks, which would be like the government's not worried about your AR-15 to a large extent. I mean, I think to some extent, if they're going to try to go house to house to crack down, but I mean, they have very advanced weapons. I mean, Biden wasn't wrong when he said, we have F-16s. It's like, that's probably not what they would use, but the point is, the United States government and all governments have very advanced weaponry that would just take you out. I mean, stuff we don't even know about. I'm sure they could melt your brain from space or something.
Or when you live in the cities and the apartment blocks and condos, they can poison you while you're sitting in there and you won't even know the difference. You're sitting there just sitting down and stuff starts flowing through the ventilation and then you're dead, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, they have, I'm exaggerating on the melting your brain. Well, I mean, they do have direct energy weapons, but
yes,
these sonic weapons, I'm sure you've seen that with the riot control stuff, and the microwave weapons, like,
yes,
sorts of people, pallets being burned. I mean, they have all sorts of advanced stuff that they're not worried about turn off my phone here. So, yeah, it's got to be just, I think, a peaceful effort to just resist tyranny and just say no, just don't go along with it.
It has to be, because if we don't do this peacefully, we are going to lose. But
right.
the thing is that the elected officials, and this is why one of the reasons why we started to do the petitions for redress of grievances, and this was based on the rules for the legislatures in the United States from the time the Constitution was written. It actually goes back to the British common law from their legal system, the Westminster parliamentary system, which both of our legal systems are based on how they did this. And the petition for redress that's codified in the First Amendment, the government doesn't tell the urgency of that petition. The people do, right? And so they have it. We've been taught to treat our government officials like kings. They're servants. They're called public servants because they're slaves to our will. Their job description is the constitution of your country. And if they're not following that, then they got to leave. But we have provisions in there, and that petition for redress is where they can put a lot of pressure on people because it's their right. And everybody has a right to their Republican form of government in the United States. And this isn't, please do this. It's like, you need to do this or there's the door, right? And that's really, that's the mentality that we have to have, and say that we want this more than the people who are pressuring you the other way. I don't care how much money you're making or any of that kind of stuff. We need to start making their lives uncomfortable. We need to go in there and ram those papers down their throat, figuratively, and make it public. Let people see how they react when they're denying constitutional rights, right? Because people are going to be like, what do you mean you're doing that? This is not what I elected you for. Because you're supposed to hear the things that the people have and then start treating them like Trudeau. Whenever he goes out in public, let him know exactly what you think. They'll start thinking twice.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that a lot of the problem is that people still believe in the broken political system. They still think that if they just go out and block walk for their candidate and get out the vote and all this stuff, that this is going to fix it. But it's like, how many years have we been trying to do that, and nothing ever changes, and they progressively get worse? I mean, no, it doesn't matter if it's the Republicans or the Democrats. Nothing ever changes except for the fact that they just take more and more of our freedoms away, get us involved in more and more wars, make things more and more expensive, and just make it impossible to live, to have any freedom of choice, freedom, any sovereignty over your own life. So I think that people have to just get out of this whole right-left paradigm. I think that's a lot of what is really keeping people enslaved. Because yes, okay, people on the left have very different values than us, but I think everybody, by and large, I mean, there is a mindset on the left, of course, that it's like they just want the government to take care of everything. But it's just everybody's stuck in this whole just like left versus right. If I get my right-wing candidate elected, that they're going to change things, and it just never happens, So I think people need to just wake up from that it's really both, in my opinion. I think both parties are controlled by the same people, and it's like a pendulum swing. Like the Democrats win in the United States, and then things get really horrible, and then everybody's begging for the Republicans to come back in and fix things, and then the Republicans don't really fix anything. I mean, maybe a few things facially, but by and large, it's all moving in the same direction.
Well, this is where and I agree with what you're saying. People have to take personal responsibility. Like I tell people, the government's like a toddler. You have to instruct and guide the toddler. You can't let the toddler run your house, right? Your house will, that's exactly what it is. And so we need to make sure that the government does their will, because if the government doesn't have a healthy fear of disappointing the people because there's going to be consequences for their actions, why are they going to stop, right? People naturally take the path of least resistance. We have to give them more resistance, and we have the tools to do that. We don't have to play the game the way they've rigged us to lose. We play the game the way that it was designed to be, because especially in the United States, that Constitution starts with we the people. There's only two parties in that contract, the government and the people. Even though they didn't sign the contract, they accepted it, because if they didn't accept it, the founding fathers and everybody who penned that Constitution would have been hanging from ropes in front of the White House. They would have. If the people didn't agree with it, they would be dead. They would grab them out, tried for treason, you're finished. Next. That's what would have happened, because they didn't shed blood to go back and get bent over. They did.
Yeah, absolutely. Other thing that disturbs me is just how complicated they've made the legal system. I mean, we kind of started the conversation just talking about just how it's helping people keep their jobs, understand their rights, and it's what really, one thing that disturbs me is just it's almost impossible to fight the government or any of these corporations in court because they make the system so complex that you have to hire a lawyer to understand it, and nobody can afford a lawyer. I mean, lawyers are outrageously expensive. I mean, I try to keep my prices as low as possible, but I mean, they make it really expensive to run a law practice. I mean, the costs I have to pay for all the software I have to use, I mean, it's really difficult. So I don't know. One of my missions is to really, that's what I'm working on primarily now, is to empower people to not have to hire a lawyer. Because I really just don't think you should have to. You should be able to understand the legal system, and people, I mean, as you know, it sounds like it's like there's two systems. It's like there's the statutory system, there's the system they have us all trapped in, and there's the private law system that you don't have to consent to. So I'm kind of trying to work on both. Like if you want to do it, like if you want to operate in the public, I'll teach you how to do that. But I think we got to get people into asserting their own sovereignty and getting out of this fraudulent statutory system.
Yes, and you're still going to have to fight some of it on their territory to keep them from destroying you, right? Like, I mean, otherwise they'll just come in and send people in, because a lot of people believe in the system as it is now, and so they'll just go along with it, and then they'll send a bunch of guys with guns to come and get you, and they take you by force. And so you've got to slow that progress while people begin to understand what's going on. And so when you learn how to use the legal system, which I learned how to do very quickly and started to like outperform all the lawyers I was dealing with, they just straight up cheated, right? Like I mean, like if you look through some of the cases that I've got, they brought me in the court, there was nobody there, and I still lost, right? Like, I mean, they would cut my time, take my evidence out, like, behind my back, so I'd come up and show up to court, and they're like, I'm sorry, you can't do that. What do you mean I can't do that? Well, it was filed. Well, whoa, they unfiled it? Really? That's how this works? And they're doing all of these shady tactics, and so I agree. I mean, I have templates and stuff like that I mean, I could throw your way if you want to help people, because I know a lot of the forms and stuff that they have are terrible, like hard for people to do. And it's just easy if they have it to fill in the blanks. But we're running up on time here. So you want to kind of tell people where they can reach you, how they can help you, because helping people do the legal system is important, because they make it extremely difficult.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm working as we speak on a project to really empower people to not have to hire a lawyer, to be able to fight the system effectively on their own. One breakthrough, I think AI is scary in so many ways, but you can now use AI as a tool to effectively draft your own legal documents. So I'm coming up with a program to teach people how to do that. And so if you want to follow me, watch my show, that's probably the best place to stay informed on just the projects that I'm working on that I'm going to roll out. So you can follow me on my two main platforms are x.com, formerly Twitter, at fireduptx lawyer, so FIREDTXLAWYER, and then on Instagram I got kicked off actually twice before, but I'm at fireduptx lawyer 2 on Instagram. And then if you want to watch my show, I post it every day on those channels, but you can subscribe to my Rumble channel, which is UnCancelled. So that's where you can find me.
All right. Well, that's good. Follow him if you want to learn about the law, or you want to hear more about what the stuff he's talking about. We'll have to come back and have a conversation again, because I know there's lots that's going on, because there's too much garbage going on right now, and people need to learn how to defend themselves. Like we were talking before, if you can't pick up a piece of paper to go and defend yourself, you are not going to come and pick up a firearm when they come and get you, right? Like,
absolutely,
right?
That's so true.
So pick up the piece of paper now, because I would rather pick up the piece of paper, because I know if we wait until they come for us, we're sadly outnumbered. and you probably won't see it coming. Right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. No,
So-
totally agree. Well, thank you so much for having me on. This is just a fun conversation to have. I mean, it's dark in a lot of ways, but it's conversations that need to be had, right?
Absolutely. So I'll close here with a prayer, because we need some prayer, because Lord knows divine intervention. We need courage and men to get courage, and go to Jesus, you'll get some. All right.
Amen.
Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. We thank you for the hope that you have given us and the work that Paul is doing and others like him. And bless all the men and the women that are standing up to do what is right and help the people and to give them the assistance that they need, and bring the men and the women to come together to rebuild their families, our churches, our community, and our nation, that we can push back this evil and have some protection, especially for the children, is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Awesome. Well, thank you for what you're doing.
All right, and thanks for coming on. We'll talk again. All right, and everyone else, we'll see you again next time.